Welcome to another episode of Unscripted with Marilyn Morales. Today's episode comes to you by Izzy's Legacy Incorporated. I love to share with everybody how easy it is to join the registry. So let's hear a little clip.
As far as the donation process goes, it is so simple and easy, and a lot of people are unaware about that. 90% of the time, it's very comparable to donating platelets or plasma in a blood center. So the first thing you can do is text Izzy's Legacy to the number 61474. You will receive a text link where you will be able to click register now, fill out the registration, and have a swab kit sent to your home. We also have tons of opportunities to do marrow donor registry drives where we can actually swab on site and sign individuals up in person. So there are many avenues for that, but once you're on the registry, it takes a couple of weeks for your swab kit to process, and then you will be in the daily searches for those who are searching for a match. If you end up being a match, you'll get a call and they'll ask if you would like to go forward with the donation process. 90% of the time, what they will ask for is a peripheral blood stem cell donation, shortly known as PBSC. And 10% of the time, what they will ask for is a direct marrow donation, which is from the back of the pelvic bone. So there are two different forms of donation, but more commonly it is going to be the PBSC.
And thank you to our Be the Match partner, Gabrielle Morales, who happens to be my daughter. So we are moving forward with our next guest today. I met him recently, very impressed with everything that he does, and you will too. Let me tell you a little bit about him. His name is Jeremy Roadruck. He is creator of the Roadmap to Relationship Mastery for Men. He is a husband, father, international Kung Fu champion, and 6th-degree master. Okay, that's a lot. Multi-time best-selling author. This I'm going to be asking questions about. Hypnotherapist, neurostrategist, and consultant. Author of the only parenting book with a money-back guarantee, and we'll see how that worked out. Okay, Jeremy is on a mission to help dads who lead in business to create strong marriages, raise amazing kids and grandkids, and have businesses that they love. He's been through bankruptcy, living in a tent in the woods, car repossession, kicked out of where he was living after his second lung collapse, closed his dream business, and more. And through it all, he's developed specific strategies and tools to help keep his mindset playful and strong. Today, he's happily married and helping men love their lives and their wives. Let's welcome Jeremy to the show. Hey.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever the day finds everybody listening. How y'all doing?
Oh, amen to that. Jeremy, you have so much to share. So much to share.
Yes.
I mean, I got questions for every little part of these sentences that I read off. Okay.
Yeah, I've been through the ringer and builds character. And I do want to say something about the donation. I donate plasma on a weekly basis as well, because there is a need. It sounds kind of gory, but there's a need for our biological essence for other people. So if you have the ability to donate, if it's medically possible for you, please do consider that, because it's really, really important that when people are facing crisis, they have the medical support that they need, and they have the resources, the biotissue, the donations, the things that matter are really, really something close to my heart. So, something we got to look out for each other.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And how often did you say you donate?
Weekly.
Weekly. Mm-hmm. And the process to donate for bone marrow, right, is mm-hmm. just like that. So if you can do this weekly, imagine, right? Mm-hmm. This is the ability to save lives in life. It is no longer a big old surgical process like it used to be. And I think people remember that.
Right.
And they don't know that things have changed. And in 90% of those cases, you're hanging out with a nurse at the hospital, getting a needle put in, but you're hanging out watching TV. You can bring somebody with you to hang out, and you're saving a life while you're doing that.
That's awesome.
What's better than that? That's awesome. So thank you for sharing that.
100%,
I appreciate it.
100%.
So let's get into you and talk to me about the ringer. Talk to me about your life and tools that you used to come forward from all that.
Yeah, the biggest thing, if I could offer to everyone, is it's all BS. It's all belief systems. right? None of us are born racist. None of us are born hating ourselves or hating each other. Like, none of us were born a loser. We were technically born a winner. Like, you won the first race. You made it. You got out of the chute. So, like, congratulations. Somebody somewhere in your life had to teach you that you were a loser. They had to give you this idea that either you were not enough or you were too much. And if we're not enough, we got to overcompensate and we got to pretend. And if we're too much, then we got to squelch the bandwidth and don't be who we authentically are and don't say what you think or what you feel because someone might reject you. And the truth is, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting themselves. But it's easier to throw their garbage, their unresolved stuff onto you and make you the bad person than it is to deal with their own stuff. And
Right.
so ultimately, it's all BS, it's belief systems. And who was this person that gave us this idea that we weren't enough or we were too much? And what made them the arbiter of our value, right? You either get a
Right.
loving response or a cry for help. And if someone's not giving you a loving response, then you know they're not in a great place. Cool. The problem is, as kids, we don't realize that. We don't know how to read that and we take it personal. It's like, it's my fault you're upset. It's my fault you're angry. It's my fault I'm being punished. When maybe the person that's raising us is overcompensating for something in their life that they were given and they didn't know how to process. And so the pendulum is swinging from them into us, and then we perpetuate that. So a lot of the work I do is to help people unravel that stuff and separate it. Right. In my world, we call that separating the kung fu, because there's the stuff you experience and the system and the process, the socialization and all that. But then there's you, this unique spark of positive energy occupying space moving forward through time. So who are you, just you, and what's the system that you went through? Because we can begin to separate those two pieces out and clarify, and you can just be more authentically yourself and tend to get happier and tend to be a lot less like serious and take things so personal and can relax and can breathe and can soften. It's a really
Right.
cool experience.
Absolutely. Now tell me, how did you come to this realization that everything was just BS?
That took I had some things happen in my life that took me sideways at 5 and 6 years old on two different continents. And so I had about 20 years that I could not trust pretty much anybody else. And luckily for me, the things that took me sideways, I had started to develop empathy and started to care about other people, but it was a very slow, that part of me was very slow to mature. It probably took about 10 years before I really began to care about other people and their needs and wants and fears and doubts. And so I had about 20 years of living in anger, back against the wall. And if you've ever played tic-tac-toe with a 7-year-old who thinks if he loses, he's going to die, it brings
Mhm.
a lot of intensity. And all of the other kids I'm playing with are kinda, like, freaking out and pulling back because 'cause I'm, like, this freaking kid who's, like, really stressed out, and I don't even fully know why at the time. And so I realized, like, this isn't doing me any good, so I had to become a chameleon, and I had to adjust my bandwidth. I had to kinda get the read of the room and dominant personalities. How do I create my own safety, and how do I make sure no one notices me if I don't want them to? Because that's the safest
Mm.
place if no one knows you exist. And so I became very clever on certain things. And mid-20s, it all started to come apart, and by then I had started martial arts when I was 20, and that was the beginning of putting me back together, because you can be as intellectually dominant as you want, and you can be as defensive, and you can be as whatever. When you have a room full of people that can just hand you your head, it is humbling and it's exciting because you get to what's real and you get to what's true in a quick way. And everybody there wasn't there for their ego, they were there to improve themselves. So I had a place that I could get my butt kicked, but then it was like, "How'd you do that? What'd you do?" Because I had people who thought I was this arrogant, dismissive, condescending jerk, and they beat the crap out of me, and I never got mad about it. I was like, "Dude, how'd you do that?" And I wanted to figure out, because the truth was they can only hit me if I had an opening. They could only hurt me if I had an opening. So I just learned to close those off physically and then mentally. But then the highest level is emotional, right? Because like being able to physically dominate someone is a really cool skill. It's really helpful. But if that's all you got, all you have is a hammer and the world becomes a nail.
Right.
When you can intellectually engage with someone, they might not like you, but at least they respect your opinion or your perspective. But the highest level in our system is you have an exchange with someone on any level. And if you can connect and change their heart and we can become friends, Isn't it true I'm killing my enemies if we become friends?
Absolutely.
And so the highest level of skill is to change someone's heart. But if that doesn't work, let me change your mind. But if that doesn't work, you don't get to hurt me without my permission. Thank you very much. Have you met the wall? Bam.
Mm.
And so it's like that's how we build people. And so then I taught for, God, I had my own school for 17 and a half years. But so
Wow.
I taught and I developed other students and I competed at a very high level. And really the martial arts was the beginning of that process for me to really get to what's real and to heal. And then I stacked on more tools because in my mid 30s, some other things came back that had to be dealt with and finally resolved. And that's when I picked up the master practitioner certifications in neurolinguistic programming and hypnotherapy. And here's how we build our belief systems. Like, here's the process, which also means here's how you change it. And so,
Right.
how can I get to something that creates a win-win game? You get to feel warm, big, and happy, and I get to feel warm, big, and happy. Because if it's
Right.
not win-win, it's not going to be sustainable. Whether we're talking a marriage, a business, raising kids, geopolitics, religion, if it's not a win-win, if both sides are not expanded from the experience, it's going to fail if we give it enough time. So
Right.
let's just play a different game.
Right. Amazing. Amazing. And I hear a lot that martial arts changes a lot of hearts.
hmm
Right.
It can.
Yeah.
Well, it can build the ego or it can kill the ego. And I was in a kill the ego place because it was like,
Right.
your ego doesn't matter. Win or lose, did you learn? Did you grow? Did you expand? Because if you win and learn nothing, you wasted your time. That was calories. That was exercise. But if you lose, but you learn what not to do again, that was a valuable lesson. You didn't lose because you learned. And so
Right.
Grandmaster Ming, based out of Dayton, Ohio, was a fantastic teacher. And really, it's about the body, the mind, the emotions. They all matter. So yeah,
Right.
that's the best schools are going to challenge you as a person and grow you as a person.
So a lot of lessons learned, and everybody takes these lessons that happen to them and change them into something else. Now, we talked about you having a book, right? A
hmm
parenting book that
Yes, ma'am.
comes with a money back guarantee. Tell me a little bit
Heck
about
yeah.
that. If you have it, show it to us, please.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I always keep a copy right next to me. Handsome guy right there on
Uh-huh.
the cover. If you don't tell people you're humble, they might not notice. So, bam, bam, right?
And it's
But
called
it's
Your
your best
Best Child Ever.
ever. Is this game worth winning?
Huh.
It's how to raise a stable, centered, respectful, self-disciplined, confident, self-motivated, self-directed, successful, wise, wealthy, safe, healthy, and happy child for the complete or not so complete beginner. The owner's manual of children for parents, grandparents, caregivers, guardians, teachers, and coaches of children of all ages. It's not a maintenance manual because at this point, when I wrote it, I didn't have kids. I
Oh,
actually wasn't even dating and I wasn't even married. But it's an
that's
owner's manual. Like,
interesting.
here's how to run it. Well, that's why I put the guarantee. Is because like what qualifies me to say anything? And it's like, well, when I wrote this, I had had 17 years of working with kids as young as 3 and kids as mature as 94,
Mm-hmm.
and I see patterns, right? And games, right? The bow we use in Chinese martial arts is this. It's a fist and a palm. And the palm represents the invisible, the things you can't see, right? You can't see air, but
Mm-hmm.
air impacts you. The air quality impacts you. You can't see the dragon, but you can see the movement of the dragon through the trees, through the wind, through the water. You can see the effect. So this is the mind. You can't see the mind, but you can see the mind in motion in the way people act and the stories they tell. And so that's what this became, the stories. And then the fist, this is the tiger. This is action. This is impact. This is the games we play. Our stories will always drive our games, and our games, our behavior will always drive our impact. So if you want to change someone's behavior, there's a lot of work. Or you can change the story, and the story will impact the behavior along the way.
Hmm.
And so that's really the beginning of the
It's
book
the
was,
book.
yeah,
So
that was the
tell
book
me
was that. Go
about
ahead.
people that have read your book
hmm
that have children.
Yeah.
Now what was the feedback that you got?
A lot of holy crap, you get it.
Huh.
Because being a martial arts teacher in Chinese culture, we call the teacher the sifu, is teacher, but it's
Seafood, yes.
father,
Mm-hmm.
because it is a lot. And I've had my martial arts students, my martial art children have been in their 70s, and I'm not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
But you see the relationships, the energy and motion, the patterns, the beliefs, the fears, the doubts, the insecurities, the uncertainties. That is this good enough? Did I do this right? Wanting the approval of me because I'm perceived in such a way. And it's like, well, they want to know they did it right. And they, I'm plugged into a 1500-year-old tradition. I'll tell you a story from the book is when I was 9, I decided I was not going to be a Franciscan monk because I needed to be a dad. Because how can you have any kind of spiritual authority or any kind of like, I'm going to be a father figure if you've never had the biochemistry turned on? And so
Mm.
then 25 years later, I'm in my mid 30s, and I had one of my students in his 50s had a heart attack at the school. Like, we had just finished class, and then he went to sit down, sweating profusely, came back like 5 minutes later, and from his eyebrows up, his skin was gray because the blood flow was being cut off. And he'd already had a heart attack. He was in his late 50s. So within 14 minutes, call 911, get him situated. Hospital medical staff is on site. He's packed up, shipped out. Literally 14 minutes, he's gone. And so then get a hold of his ex-wife. His daughter calls me in tears, terrified because she's worried about him. Get the message out, talk to the ex-wife, talk to the daughter, wrap up the school, and I'm at the hospital. And I'm there to support them. And here's this guy, late 50s, wiped out, weak, had to put a stent in. His ex-wife, his brother, his daughter, they're all shaken because he's their rock.
Right.
And they're looking to me, and he's looking to me, and I'm like, I'm dad right now. And it was an eye-opening experience. And at 9 years old, I made certain ideas. I had certain judgments about what it meant to be a dad, what it meant to be a leader, a father, to make an impact. And like, it was the coolest thing. And I don't take it lightly, but it was just like, that was a moment. It was just like, dude, that was a moment of wisdom, and just like, it was humbling. And
Right.
I mean, it still impacts me because it's just like the craziest thing. And what's funny is he owned a bar, and it was like a couple days before St. Patrick's Day. So he's like doing everything he can to get out of the hospital as fast as he can because he got to go to work and run things. I'm like, dude, give it a day, take a deep breath. And I'm like reining in a small child who's like not listening, and because he needs to go, but I got to do this thing and people are relying on me. And it's like, but you got to take care of yourself, because you can't blow out your heart again, dude. You look at all the people that depend on you. And
Right.
so, yeah, you can be a dad without the biochemistry, without the machinery, right? I wasn't dating anybody at the time. I didn't have kids, but like, that was my little boy there. That was just such a moment. And so
Right.
when I wrote the book, in a lot of families, I see the love. There are patterns that get in the way. There are skills that may be missing. We may be overreacting, underreacting to what our parents did.
Right.
And we're overcompensating, or we're undercompensating. Well, I hate it when they did that to me. I'm not going to do that to my kids.
Right.
And we do things like that without really realizing. So before I had my own marriage and my own children, I had like 30 years to get ready for this gig. And it's the coolest freaking thing. And
That's
I wrote the
amazing.
book. Well, thank you. I wrote the book and put the guarantee on it simply because, not dating, not married, no kids of my own, who's going to listen to me? And it's like, well, I've got 17 and a half years of working with families and kids, 25 years dealing with my own stuff and putting Humpty Dumpty back together.
Right.
And I found patterns like games. There's only 4 pieces to making a game. And when you understand those 4 pieces, that applies. All human behavior fits into that box. You have these 4 corners. You can define the box, and once you do, you can now create a game. We both get to win, and it's reproducible.
Amazing. Amazing. First of all, thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah,
And I see
absolutely.
how connected you were to that. Did you
Yeah.
ever think of the follow-up story now that you became a dad and had your own family?
Well, I have another book in mind, which is called "Is This Story Worth Telling?" Right? It's the
Mm-hmm.
same, Your Best Child Ever, but now we get into stories because we really do hypnotize ourselves. Is this a problem? Is this a challenge? Is this an obligation? Is this an opportunity? Is this a gift? Is this a calling? Right? Any one of those words becomes a one-word hypnosis. We believe, and we create meanings and possibilities and potentialities inside ourselves by the words we use to describe the situation. The time and space out there doesn't change, right? The reality doesn't change, but your internal resourcefulness changes. Because if you see this as a problem, it's going to be a different type of situation than if you think of it as an opportunity.
Right.
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 And just, I say this all the time, is like, I'm either the most pedantic person you'll meet or the most precise. Depends on what side of the equation you're on with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll be like, God, why is this guy so obstinate and so picky about words? And it's like, well, because I know what it does to your inner resourcefulness.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, in parenting, were you ever stumped by anything? You wrote the book, right?
Not stumped by, but I put the caveat in when I wrote the book, and I said, look, I haven't had kids of my own. I know there is intellectual and emotional energy and machinery that has not turned on for me. And that
Right.
with my own kids, there is the expectation of, I know how many times I've told you X, Y, Z. And so there is that frustration, which we could turn into fascination with. Why aren't you doing the thing I've told you before? Oh, I got to do it a different way. But see, in my world, that's similar to with my students in the Kung Fu school when they kick and they drop their hands. It's like, keep your hands up. How many times do I have to tell you to keep your hands up? And I asked that to the class one time because I was getting irritated with them. And a part of my brain came back to me and said, until you don't. And I was like, shut up. But that's actually really good. You're right. I just got to find other ways to get them to keep their hands up and help them realize it for themselves so that I don't have to tell them, because they understand, oh, I've got to help them get the right story. And then keeping hands up becomes a behavior because they know the reason. I got it. So the same thing with my kids. When I get frustrated with them, I'm still a human being. I'm still a work in progress. I'm not a saint by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, I'm gonna have those moments, and it's like we have stopgaps, and it's like, look, kid, I love you, but like, time out. I got to go take 5 minutes to cool off. This isn't fair. I'm getting worked up, and this is my deal, not yours. You're cool. I love you. Um, I just got to rein myself in for a second. This really matters to me, and I'm about to say something ignorant, and that's not fair. So I'm gonna take 5. You take 5. Meet in neutral corners. We'll come back. Cool. Okay. And sometimes the words get too much, and it's just timeout. Like, they know what this means, and I walk. And guess what? That means they get to do that to me too. Because if they realize their inner resources are getting nerfed and they're about to do or say something they don't want to, like, have to apologize, they can do this. And I'm like, hey, I get it. You're cool. Take a break. We'll come back to this.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that.
Well,
Time out for mom and dad.
yeah, but I'm not putting it on you. I'm putting it on me. I'm taking ownership of myself.
I need a
Yeah.
minute, right? I'm tapping out right now.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. I
It's
think
so
you use
much
that at
better.
work. I like
Yeah.
it because I think there's a lot of times that we're at work and we're heated and we're dealing, as a nurse myself, we're dealing with people at their worst.
Oh yeah.
When they're sick. And what happens among the staff that are trying to help these people and families and everybody who is in these situations, life-threatening situations. It's hard.
Absolutely.
I'd like a time out for myself.
Well, my wife and I, like, when the kids were really young, we had a conversation and we both agreed either one of us can just yell tag. And if we hear it, we need to get our butts over there as fast as we can. No questions asked. We just step in. And we run interference, because it just means one of us is overloaded, and it's not that I can't handle it. It's just the way I'm going to handle it is going to cause a lot of collateral stuff that I don't think is fair. So tag. And we can pitch from the side, be like, hey, babe, do you need to tag out? I don't think you're there yet. That's why I'm asking. And she could do that to me and say, I think you need to tag. And I'll be like, I don't want to tag, but you're probably right. Tag. I'm out. Because you're the frog in the water and the heat's boiling. I got it. I can handle it. I got this. I'm gonna.
The emotion piece, right?
No, you're right. The fact you're asking, I trust your judgment. You're right. I'm gonna take a step back. I love you all. I'll be right back. I'm not a jerk.
I would tell you for myself, I'd love to see a follow-up book sharing the experiences. Now that I'm a dad, I'm going to tell you these things that I taught you before, how I used it, and how I had to add that emotional component. I'd love to see that.
Okay. Well, then I will take that. Maybe I turn that into a podcast and we just do chapter by chapter, and we do like an interview series.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah, I like that.
So here's another thing now. So now we've taken this and now you are, working with dads, right?
Yeah.
So what caused that? That road to open for you?
So I went from Kung Fu Master, working with the kids in the school. Oh, the kids are actually not the problem, right? The kids are just the fruit of the tree of the family. Oh, mom and dad. the love is there, the skills aren't there. So like me, trained hypnotherapist, how do people communicate? How do they argue? You can elicit their primary communication system and you can align with it, right? Like I have a course that I teach for teachers on how to get better at classroom leadership and how to impact their students. And I was doing a presentation for a school and I had a teacher like just in tears as I was talking. And afterward I was like, hey, is everything okay? And she's like, I'm an intervention specialist. I've been doing this for 8 years. And what you just covered today, no one's ever told me before. Because she was thinking about kids that communicate in certain channels, auditory, visual, kinesthetic, conceptual. And she's going, oh, I misread them, or I miscommunicated, or I know why they're struggling in a new way. But it was 8 years that she never knew that, yeah, there's ways to read people's body language and you know what part of the brain they're using, you know how they're thinking, you know what you need to give them to help them thrive. And our educational system is wired auditory visual, not kinesthetic. You get a feeler who has to come to the answer and they tend to talk a little slower and breathe a little slower. Well, we can only think as fast as we talk. And so if you have someone talking at this speed, but you have a teacher who's going at this speed, that student's only going to get every fourth or fifth or sixth word and they're going to feel really stupid in class. Not because they're stupid, they can't keep that pace.
Right.
And so I went from working with the kids to working with the parents. And then as I was working with the parents, I realized a lot of dads are underserved because dads are given the story, or the story is given to us about dads always being angry, never being patient, never caring, cutting things off. And it's like, no, dad is he's wired to protect and to provide and not to waste time, because when you're in battle, don't be superfluous, don't waste time. And masculine, I don't care how you feel, this is what needs to get done, frickin' do the job.
Right.
And when someone gets caught up in their feeling and they're emotionally overwhelmed, it gets hard to do that. And so somebody who's a decisive mind, shut up and do it, I don't care how you feel, we'll deal with that later. And you get someone who's emotionally melting down, the natural tendency is to double down on stop, just focus, do the thing I'm telling you. And then you get someone who's amping up more energy to produce the result. And you've got a team member who's melting down emotionally. That's a lose-lose game. And so it's not because dads don't care. It's not because dads don't love. It's not because dads don't love their family enough. They don't care about no, it's understanding how masculine tends to communicate different than feminine tends to communicate. Nobody's wrong here, but we're misaligned and we're crashing into each other, when if we just adjust a couple, oh, it lines up. That's so much easier. Yes. And so I come in and how to speed things up for dads easier with less stress and less like shutdowns, breakdowns, judgment, fault, blame, guilt, shame. Like let's throw all that crap away. And that's when I started working with dads, is because dads are so underserved. And even a lot of the men's space stuff, it's a lot about power and dominance and control, which is all well and good. But if your inner child isn't safe, your family won't feel safe. Your wife won't feel safe, because yeah, your power is there, but it feels like it's a threat to them because they are having the power applied to them instead of with them or for them. So I have a 3-part process where we talk about nurturing the boy, mastering the man, and leading as a king. And how do you get all 3 parts of you alive and playing? Because if your inner child is there, your family feels safe with you, even when you're upset, even when you're high emotion, even when you're loud volume. You can do it in such a way that your family doesn't feel like they're at risk, because you're safe. And it's not safe because you're neutered, not safe because you're powerless, not safe because you're so placating and pleasing. You get to be all man, but you know how to create safety for your family, and like timeout and off gassing and this is not okay. And how do you align in? And so that's kind of the sequence of how I grew, and just seeing where the need and the pain was. Unfortunately, 85% of all like parenting and self-help stuff is bought by moms, not dads.
Right.
So
Right.
working to change that.
But definitely you identified a problem and you're addressing that problem. So kudos to you. Because definitely when I saw that, I was like, nobody does that. And it's so needed, so needed. So I have your website on the bottom of our screen there for everybody who's interested in working with you. And I hope that there's a lot of people out there that if they're seeing this and they're women, that they're presenting this to their husbands, to their boyfriends, to their significant others, and saying, there's resources out there. We're the ones usually that identify that there's a problem. So
Well,
You just have to.
I just put a bundle together. I'm calling the Ultimate Husband and Child Hack Pack. And it's some of my best trainings. And within about 2 hours, you will have master keys to like run the people you love in a win-win pattern. Like how do
Mm,
they feel warm, big, and happy, and I feel warm, big, and happy. Plus, you get 3 one-on-one calls with me, so we can dial everything in for your exact situation.
nice.
I have somebody that's going through it right now, and I'm getting feedback from the wife that it's been 2 weeks, and already dad is showing up more gentle and more playful with family. The whole routine coming home at night has changed after work, and he's like, he now knows how to engage with the family, but she knows how to guide that also and give him what he needs. That he's in home mode, not work mode. And like she doesn't jump on him when he first comes in the house. There's a whole greeting routine that they go through,
Mm,
and 20 minutes after he walks in the door, he's ready to engage with the family, and he's on a whole other level that she's always known was there, but just didn't know how to get a hold of it or get it to show up.
that's
And
amazing.
well, that's why I built the course, was I got that feedback because I just put some stuff together for a friend of mine who was going through some stuff. I was like, hey, could you help my family? I'm like, yeah, of course. And then da da da. And she's like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm like, well, yeah, it's not hard to hack. Guys play for points. We want to win. We just don't know how to.
Right.
Right.
That's amazing. So do you work with the whole family or just the
I
dad?
can. I can. I can. I
Okay.
like to work with dads and I like to work with couples more than women just by themselves. And there's nothing wrong with women. It's just guys are so underserved.
Yeah,
And
this is your niche, right? And this is
it's who I love to light up.
yeah, there's so many people out there to help the women and the wives. So yeah,
Hmm, hmm.
let's give you the guys. Let's throw
Yep.
them all at you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I put that bundle though. It's just a quick introduction, and it's a low ticket program in my world, and it's powerful, and you get lifetime access. And again, you get those 3 calls with me to dial in on specifics, and I've got 28 years now working with people.
Amazing.
So
And that's
it's
accessed right there on your website. They can go right on
yeah.
that website and
Well, they would
access.
need to go to leelikeaking.com/hack-pack,
Okay.
is the full program, but reach out to me. I'm not shy. I'm the only Jeremy Roadruck on the internet. I'm easy to find.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing all that you do. I'm loving this entire thing. I'm going to be waiting for that podcast of yours.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
I want to hear it. I want to hear it. So, Jeremy, share with me, what is your definition of success?
Success to me is accomplishment matched with fulfillment for self and others. Because accomplishment matters, but if you can just accomplish stuff, but it's just empty and it's a notch on the bedpost or it's a gold star on the wall and it doesn't give you value, it doesn't make you feel accomplished, it doesn't make you feel accomplished, like fulfilled and like gratified and like that was worth it versus "No, okay, next, no, okay, next." So accomplishment with fulfillment, and then it impacts you, but it impacts other people as well.
Right? It's a
Because
ripple
that's
effect.
what's going to be sustainable. That's the win-win, right? If what you did is perfect and nobody knows it, what good was it? What impact did it really make or offer to the world?
Right. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. And I hope, and I know that's going to bring so much value to everybody out there. I'm going to make sure that I tag as many men as possible to watch this episode. And for my
Please
viewers
do.
out there, I will see you next time.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gabrielle Morales, and I am a recruitment coordinator for Be the Match. My journey with Be the Match actually began when I was only 9 years old. At that point, my 7-month-old baby sister was diagnosed with an extremely rare form of leukemia. Through the Be the Match registry, we were able to find a matching donor for my sister. And although a few months later we lost her, her cancer was cured. Our family is so thankful for the additional months that we had with my sister. And ever since then, I've made a promise to myself to dedicate my life to helping children just like Isabella and helping families like ours by continuing her legacy. Hence why I now work for Be the Match. I love what I do so much, and I'm able to spread awareness about the huge need for more donors on the registry, especially those of diverse backgrounds. There is currently a huge disparity within the registry for minority patients, and we need your help. It is so simple to save a life and to be put on the registry. you can visit izzy'slegacy.com or text Izzy's Legacy to the number 61474 to start the registration process to be on the Be the Match registry. So hopefully be a life-saving match for a searching patient in need.